Not one BuzzFeed beta male met the 617 average. Rather, all of the men tested below the level of a typical 85-year-old male. Moreover, 3 of the 4 men tested below the average range, and the male with the highest testosterone level, Eugene, still had a relatively low T-score with 363 NG/DL.
What's up, guys? Derek, moreplaysmoredates.com. Today we're going to be reacting to Tim Pool. So he posted a video the other day that a bunch of you guys have sent me called "Modern Male Testosterone is Collapsing to Insanely Low Levels. What is happening to men?" And it has a picture of one of the Try Guys on the front, which, interestingly enough, it's actually an old video that people have been asking me to react to too as well, where they basically went through like this battery of tests to see, you know, how to determine how attractive you are. And one of those things was, you know, checking their testosterone levels, and pretty much every single one of them was like clinically hypogonadal, and one guy was like borderline. He was the highest T guy of the bunch. So that is mainly what this video is about, as far as I know. I haven't watched the full thing yet, but I might skip around a bit because it's 20 minutes and I don't want my video to be too long, but we will see.
Do you guys remember the Try Guys?
Oh my God, where they had the below like 2 standard deviations of T levels?
So I tried finding...
I have it on a 1.25 times speed, by the way, just to get through it a bit faster. So I'll try and talk fast to match these guys.
So for those aren't familiar, and now that we've talked about China and masculinity, China wants to make their men more masculine, and in the US, you know, like Luke mentioned, testosterone levels are down, sperm counts are down.
Okay, I don't think I'll be able to because he's talking pretty quick, so I'll go to normal.
Reproduction is going down, and there's this group of guys that were on BuzzFeed. I don't think they're there anymore. They were called the Try Guys. So they decided to do a segment where they tested their testosterone levels, and their testosterone levels were that of senior citizens.
That or like prepubescent boys or something.
Or girls, I think.
Or girls, yeah.
Yeah, no, of women.
It was bad.
It was really bad. So I actually have this article. I couldn't find a good article talking about the results because the original video they did just said, "Hey, look, we got our testosterone tested. How fun." But then a lot of people realized, whoa, these guys have dangerously low levels of testosterone. So I found a website called the 4-Second Hard-On, and they say BuzzFeed's Try Guys have dangerously low testosterone.
Yeah, if you watch the original Try Guys video, you'll see that they just kind of like brush over the results. They're not like concerned. They're not freaking out, when in reality, their test results are fucking horrendous.
From December of 2017. They say the BuzzFeed Try Guys are a stereotypical group of beta male millennials that try various weird things and record their feminine reactions on YouTube. I don't think it's the best article I could find, so forgive the snark. If you have the misfortune to watch any of their content, you probably notice something's a little off. You'd be correct. In one of their antics, they tried to find out who was the most attractive man. One of the things they did was have blood work done to measure their testosterone levels. The Daily Wire reports. Actually, you know what? Can I just pull up the Daily Wire? Because they'd be a little bit less bombastic. So, no, that's not even there anymore. All right. So they say, quote, "The normal T-score for an adult male ranges from 270 to 1070 NG/DL. Would you know what that means, Leah?
Nanograms per deciliter.
No.
NG/DL?
Sorry.
With men aged from 25 to 34 averaging at 617 NG/DL.
So that's nanograms per deciliter.
Oh,
Whatever
okay.
that means, just a measurement.
All right. Not one BuzzFeed beta male met the 617 average. Rather, all of the men tested below the level of a typical 85-year-old male. Moreover, 3 of the 4 men tested below the average range, and the male with the highest testosterone level, Eugene, still had a relatively low T-score with 363 NG/DL. Why is it? Like, I don't.
Food?
Microplastics?
No exercise, maybe microplastics. I was reading about how we have this bottled water, right? No offense to this bottled water company, but there's, what is it called, like biphenyls?
Microplastics that mimic estrogen.
Yeah, bisphenol.
Inside of them, especially if the bottle is, exposed to heat and cold and expansion. But it's also alcohol. It's also mint. It's also, breads. Yeah,
Mint?
many people don't even know this.
Really?
Mint lowers your testosterone. I've looked into this. Trust me, I got my testosterone tested a whole bunch of times.
Were you good?
Yes. I was very happy with my levels. I was like, all right, I did
think
it.
The Slavic level starts higher as
Yeah,
like a
I think
baseline.
so. I wasn't born in the United States, and I think that also helps
that's
a lot too. I was exposed to a whole different kind of way of life.
Your radiation levels are way higher though.
Yes.
You know, I think a lot of guys, they really try to dig and figure out some sort of, you know, is it the water bottles? Is it the phytoestrogens? Is it like, what is poisoning us in this environment that's fucking up my test? And it's like, in reality, the vast majority of people are just out of shape. They're too fat. So they have more aromatase enzymes than the next guy. So they produce more estrogen disproportionately, and or they achieve a level of estrogen receptor activation earlier than somebody who's actually lean, athletic, exercising, doing resistance training, etc. And they achieve negative feedback to their HPTA, which then downregulates their testosterone production. So there's a lot of guys who simply via shit lifestyles are ruining their T levels, and then compound on top of that the lack of sufficient, not just macronutrients, because, you know, sure enough, people are eating enough fucking food because they're overeating, but the micronutrient component of that food, most people aren't even eating fucking food, dude. Like, they're eating shit diets. Their bodies are representative of that, and they're sitting around sedentary all the time on computers all day. Like, no one is actually living a lifestyle that's biologically conducive to having a high T level. So it's not unexpected, in my opinion, for there to be more and more low T guys in the world when the lifestyle that most people are adopting is very, very conducive to shit T levels. Like, if you're going to do absolutely nothing and be a sloth and eat pizza pops all day, or just have a body composition that's shit and not go resistance train, not get outdoors and in the sun, not do anything that's conducive to the environment that's needed to facilitate high androgen production, your body is going to think, why the fuck would I produce tests when I don't need it? I'm basically in hibernation mode right now. Like, go to fucking bed. Like, there's no reason to be a high T male if you're not giving it a reason to be. You don't just function at a genetic elite tier your whole life unless you're actually doing lifestyle factors that are conducive to actually facilitating biological things that you're meant to do. So, like back in the day when you're fucking hunting in the wild and chasing down a wild whatever, like, your body recognizes the need for fucking actually exerting yourself and getting out there and doing things. When you're sitting in a chair staring at a screen all day and you're getting fat and you're eating a shit diet that is lackluster in zinc, fucking every single thing you need as a cofactor for fill in the blank, what do you expect is going to happen? You know, that is kind of my conclusion. And then obviously on top of that, I do believe there are a lot of things that may have negative feedback on their own, you know, phytoestrogens, things of this nature. But I think a lot of it just comes down to people making excuses for their shitty lifestyles and chalking it up to there's something going on in the fucking, what's the thing that Alex Jones always says? It's like something in the water. It's making the, you know, basically killing T levels or whatever. You know, who knows, man? I don't fucking know. I just know that the majority of guys that have bad T levels, sure, there are some outliers where it is like genetic anomalies and whatnot and certain like weird things going on. But in general, most guys with low T levels are guys who are not optimizing or even trying to do anything.
Because of Chernobyl, which I was actually born very close to, and afterwards, and I was still in my mom's belly, so that could understand my fraudulent slips sometimes. But
Fraudulent?
Yes.
you know what I said.
Freudian.
I
You
know.
almost got this.
But again, testosterone, sperm levels, reproduction levels, absolutely low, very dangerous. No one wants to talk about it. They should be talking about it because testosterone is not only key to men's physical health, not only to your bones, not only towards your muscles, not only.
So a lot of people, they know about the low T levels, but then they're like, well, why is there low sperm count too? And it's like, most people are actually micronutrient deficient in a handful of things at least. Like, how many people do you know who are getting enough zinc through their diets? Like, not fucking many. But in addition to that, intratesticular testosterone production is what you need to actually lead to spermatogenesis, to actually get proper maturation and development. This is something that is a prerequisite. So at the end of the day, it still just boils down to fucking with your HPTA and not giving your body the proper nutrients as well as stimulus, as well as just like the reason to biologically like facilitate the functions correctly at a high level.
only to towards your physical structure, but also your mental health.
And the body composition too, at the end of the day. If you have too much body fat, no matter how dialed in you are with the other things, you're going to have early negative feedback via that excess aromatase activity.
So if you're lacking in testosterone, this could explain why so many people are out of it, loopy and crazy, and we're having a mental health crisis because they don't have the proper amount of hormones
And
within
easy
their
to
system.
manipulate.
So
And easy to
exactly.
manipulate.
I want to stress. I mean no disrespect to the Try Guys. I'm just, I mean that sincerely. I'm pointing out this is a serious issue. So in one of the image they show, we can see that the lowest guy, Ned, had a T-score of 212. And for someone who's 85 to 100, it should be 376. There is seriously something wrong. I mean,
This is a bigger public health crisis than coronavirus, but no
Yeah,
one's talking about it.
actually.
But if
Maybe a little.
your T levels are below that of an 85-year-old man, shouldn't you go for like a screening of some sort to figure out what's wrong?
Yeah, but unfortunately, most people are going to fall within the therapeutic reference range, even just by a hair, and they'll tell you, oh, well, you're normal because you're 271. When in reality, you are functioning like a fucking dying 90-year-old, and your diet model is trash. But most doctors are not going to tell you to fix your diet, unfortunately. The first thing they're going to say is either you're fine because you fall within this arbitrary, super vague reference range, or they're going to, say you medically qualify for fill in the blank medication. But good doctors or people who actually, are willing to take a step further will, peel peel the onion back, peel the fucking curtain back, whatever the saying is, and see what the underlying lifestyle factors are like, sleep hygiene, diet model, etc., and see what the fuck is going on. Because oftentimes this is self-induced via personal decisions.
Could that be something more serious than that?
Has anyone ever, if you go into like a regular checkup, this is not a normal procedure. It should be. Like when they check everything
I have
else.
to make sure, like, I get it,
Right.
and I have to fight them sometimes. I'm like, because I get a blood test every 6 months just to check out my levels,
Right.
just to see how I'm doing on my, minerals and nutrients and all this other vitamin stuff, making sure my body's running, well. And they're like, oh, well, you don't need it. You're fine. You're in your third. I'm like, no. Make sure you put it on there, because they just refuse to do it many times.
So let me show you this. I just did this quick Google search. It's from 2007. Generational decline in testosterone levels observed. Trend does not seem to be attributable to health and lifestyle changes. They say during the past 2 decades, testosterone levels in American men have rapidly declined. This information comes from a long-term prospective study that evaluated changes in serum testosterone on a population-wide basis. The study was published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism. They say the interesting thing we discovered was that on average, when we measured the testosterone in the blood of a 60-year-old in 1989, it was higher than that in a different 60-year-old measured in 1995, said Thomas Travison, PhD, of the New England Research Institute's Watertown, Massachusetts. We observed the same phenomenon over a wide range of ages. They say although testosterone loss is common as men age, it is often associated with diabetes, abdominal obesity, sexual dysfunction, depression, and other adverse conditions. The Massachusetts Male Aging Study was composed of randomly selected men ages 45 to 79 living in the Boston area. I'm not going to go through all of the, full details on how the study was done. Just that for the past couple of decades now, or I should say decade and a half-ish, we've been seeing that there's some kind of decline in testosterone among men.
I don't know how anyone could attribute anything to a lack of lifestyle factors when back in the day, you wouldn't be sitting in front of a fucking computer lounging all day eating Cheetos. You wouldn't be streaming for 12 hours straight. You wouldn't be consuming ridiculous amounts of content and just unnecessarily yanking the fucking chain 3 times a day because you have immediate access to pornography. Like, this kind of shit is new age stuff that is happening, and I think is ultimately compounding to lead to a declining level. Now, I do also think that certain processes for the way food is prepared commercially and whatnot probably plays into it too, as well as personal choice, though, at the end of the day. It would be hard for me to think that lifestyle factors would not be the main thing at play here. And I guess it depends what you consider a lifestyle factor, but I would consider following a meticulous diet model being a lifestyle factor and actually getting high quality sources of food. So, I would have a hard time believing that it's just your water bottle, or it's the fucking fluoride in your fucking, it's the fucking whatever in your tap water. For me, I think it's a lot of it is personal decisions that are playing into it, compounded with the other stuff perhaps. In addition to just like the lifestyle that people lead now, it's very lack of sleep, high stimulants, using drugs to fix things rather than actually look at the root of the problem. Let's just band-aid it and use a sleep medication that ruins my sleep quality even more just to get to sleep because I'm not getting enough sleep, and then I'm waking up early and I'm slamming fucking Adderall and shit. Like, this stuff is all a vicious circle, and I think leads to the compounding effect of low T in a lot of guys.
Lifestyle, or what do they say? Health and lifestyle.
Well, for diet, personally, I just reminded myself, because I remember doing a lot of research about this a few years ago, but it's also a lot of processed food, flax seeds, vegetable oils, along with what I mentioned before, mint, alcohol, that do have a very negative
Mint. It's like the most random fucking thing.
effect on you.
And then remember
Yes,
they said-
Surprising,
Yeah.
weird.
They said you weren't supposed to eat eggs for a while. Eggs was bad, red meat, and all
they're
those things. They
good, yes.
moved them back up the pyramid, or the food pyramid, because they found
Healthy
out
fats.
healthy fats. But also, you guys remember they used to talk about ancient Rome with the lead and the aqueducts and stuff, and that had an impact on people's health. And I think, if I remember correctly, the lead in there impacted testosterone of ancient Rome. I mean, there may be something going on now that we don't know about, the plastics, whatever. Maybe in 1,000 years we'll know.
High fructose corn syrup, maybe. You really.
Yeah, so again, I think it is a lot of the shitty food that is like readily available. You know, back in the day, you would have higher quality sources of food in general, I would think. Now there's just far greater ease of access to things that are not even food, that are just micronutrient deficient as fuck. And again, like the rampant over abuse of, medications to band-aid certain issues. Like, again, how many people are on fucking sleeping medications that they don't realize are actually ruining their sleep quality? And they wake up and they slam like 5 cups of coffee, plus their Adderall, plus blah, blah, blah. And then they try to, undersleep on purpose because they have to, get up on 6 hours of sleep to be more time efficient and get back to, fucking gaming for 12 hours straight. So I don't know, man. I think it's impossible to say it's not a lifestyle diet related. Too many people are sedentary nowadays. Too many people are eating poor diets. Too many people are not taking into account their sleep hygiene practices. This is all just rudimentary stuff when it comes down to it, in my opinion.
Maybe
Hit the mainstream food supply in 1989. Thereabout. It's banned in Europe. Is that true?
the interesting
But Europe's
thing,
just as bad. So.
the interesting thing about the study, though, is they mention 1989 to 1995. It's not like these are different generations.
Right.
It's not like there was a genetics being passed down or whatever.
89 to 95.
Yeah.
It's only
Yeah,
6
that's
years.
when high fructose corn syrup hit the market.
There is evidence of epigenetic changes that can happen to your sperm and to the offspring just by your lifestyle choices, though, too. So when he says there's no genetic passing it on, like, I'm pretty sure there's data that implies that even if you're just like fat when you have your kid, like, you might end up causing epigenetic changes that pass on to the kid just because you decided to be way too lax with your diet and training at the time of, conceiving. So I don't know. There's a lot of like weird things that still have yet to be explored that might explain, certain changes.
Well, so
Like
you have a
enforce.
60-year-old in 1989, and that means you have the 60-year-old at the time was 54. So maybe there's something about, you go back to the 50s, and we've been introducing more and more of something that's caused some kind of
also
issue with men.
the sugar industry put out a bunch of PR and bribed a bunch of doctors to say that fats were really bad for you. And if you walk around the supermarket, you see everything non-fat, low-fat, and
Those are the worst for you.
And there's been a lot of misinformation surrounding fat, good fat, bad fat, that of course was just totally wiped out with this larger PR campaign that was launched by the sugar industry. Because if you look at foods now, everything has a ton of crazy processed sugar in there, but very few things actually have natural fat. And natural fat is also very key, important, not only for your physical health, but also your mental health.
This could be it. I mean, it could be a bunch of guys who are not getting any fat in their diet. Maybe they're vegan. So they're, no disrespect to vegans, but probably getting a lot more fiber, a lot more sugar, and a lot less protein and fat.
Yeah, but also micronutrients. How many people count their macros but don't go into Chronometer and plug their diet in and see how lackluster it is in zinc, magnesium, basic shit?
Have you ever seen a healthy vegan? I mean, they generally don't look healthy. I mean, that's an anecdote, but I mean, I've never seen them look great.
Adam and
truth-
Nish are pretty healthy, but they
Yeah.
supplement
The what?
hard. Adam and Nish, they live here in the house.
Oh, okay.
And they know all of the secrets.
But
They know
that's the
about
thing. You
proper
have to have
vitamins and
you have to go the extra mile. If you
Big
just,
time too. Vitamin B deficiency is huge. I would imagine
Iron
fat-
deficiency.
Iron deficiency, fat.
because I'm not a nutritionist or anything, but my understanding is that there's like heme iron and non-heme iron. You Google
There was a study done comparing the actual nutritional levels of food and vegetables and fruits just a couple years ago to now, and that's also declining, and that could be a response because of factory farming. No,
Yeah.
based off your
Your gut is a lot. Yeah.
I'm going to jump around a bit because my video is going to end up being 45 minutes if I watch the whole thing with you guys. So let me just see if they make any other key points that are worth touching on.
Wondering if maybe there's something related to the higher crop yield that we've seen from crops due to, you have people like Norman Borlaug, who's this famous scientist who figured out how to get more wheat out of a typical, yield or whatever to save people from starvation. He's a brilliant guy. People consider he's a great hero and scientist. But there's a concern that there's less and less nutrients in the crops we're growing as we grow.
Yeah, so that's a fair point too. Like, I don't know how accurate that is, but I mean, if you're using strategies to kind of like increase the food production at the expense of the quality and the micronutrient density, then yeah, I could see why it would be harder and harder in a dose-dependent manner, essentially, for people, the ever-growing population, to get food that is, adequately enriched with its, original properties that you would expect it to have. So again, it goes back to micronutrients. How many people have shit fertility simply because they're lacking sufficient, even things like creatine, carnitine, zinc, etc. This shit is often overlooked entirely, and they just think like, just don't eat a cookie and eat this, and then you're fine. It's like, no, dude, like, plug the fucking thing in. Plug your diet into Chronometer.com and see where it's at.
Point when settlers came to New Zealand, they were having their sheep graze in this area.
ginger, leafy greens, fatty foods, fish oil, virgin olive oil, onions, and oysters.
A Mediterranean diet.
As
exactly.
positive foods
Mediterranean
to almost
It's like steroids.
every month. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's producing it. So essentially, you have to inject yourself almost
like steroids.
every month. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's what a lot
Dude,
of fighters
what?
as
Exactly.
positive foods
Mediterranean
to
diet.
boost your testosterone naturally, because I know a lot of people who either go down to Mexico or even through weird doctors here in the United States decide to do it the artificial way, and that's why there's a lot of people on testosterone replacement therapy. And once you're on it, you're going to have to be on it for the rest of your life. I know a lot of people who are miserable because of it. They're very happy when they initially take it, but it's just like any other hormone. Your body stops naturally producing it, so essentially you have to inject yourself almost
like steroids.
every month. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Inject yourself every month. Yeah, that is definitely... If that's the frequency of administration, I think we've deduced why your friends do not feel good right now.
That's what a lot of fighters are, accused of doing. That's why they test a lot of fighters, because a lot of fighters inject themselves with anabolic steroids, extra testosterone, to make sure that they're better fighters. There was even legal testosterone replacement that Joe Rogan was talking about some UFC fighters using, and then
I skipped the part before that, but was he implying that people went to Mexico to get TRT? I hope not.
just bulking up, being buffer, having huge muscles, and being incredible fighters, which also was banned by the UFC and other fighting organizations because of obviously people were abusing it and taking a whole bunch of it themselves. But
Well, even if you're not taking a whole bunch of it, just replacing natural function, when your testosterone levels are being administered exogenously, they maintain stable blood serum concentrations regardless of how shitty your diet is, how shitty your sleep is. So all this stuff that we're talking about here, when you're on TRT, it doesn't even matter. Like, it does for your actual health, but when you get a shitty sleep, it's not like your test levels are going to plummet overnight because you're fucking administering them exogenously, and they don't follow a pulsatile diurnal rhythm like a normal person with normal production would. So yeah, it's like a lot of these guys were not using, some of them are using super physiological amounts, I'm sure, but I mean, even at a physiologic replacement amount, it's still performance enhancing.
I know a lot of people that just, they take it artificially. And that's becoming more and more prevalent among older men that I know.
Let me read this segment from the 4-second hard-on. They say, they are not freaks. They are the new normal of the BuzzFeed Try Guys. A very sizable percentage of millennial men suffer from low testosterone levels. The reasons are pretty well known, but hard to combat. Modern lifestyle is sedentary, and the most lucrative jobs in the modern economy require sitting in front of a computer under fluorescent lighting for 10 hours a day. The male body requires routine athletic activity and exposure to sunlight, and most are not getting it. On top of that, processed foods and chemical pollutants crippling men's hormone systems. The near universal use of birth control pill by women results in the water supply being tainted with estrogen. Hell, male fish in polluted rivers are actually becoming female.
So pretty much everything he said was exactly what I said. Only thing I don't really know is how contaminated or the water supply with ethinyl estradiol, which is an estrogen analog, which is featured in combined oral contraceptives that is very potent at estrogen receptor activation and can provide negative feedback in the HPTA at minimal dosages, so minuscule that you would be, it's in the microgram quantities. So I don't know how common that is. That seems kind of far-fetched, but I mean, I guess it's possible.
You mean to tell me they're turning the freaking fish into women?
That's
This is a 2009 article.
correct.
What kind of website did you find? 4-second hard-on?
Popular
it.
Science. Hold on. PopularScience.com.
Okay.
Something in the water is feminizing male fish. Are we next?
Yes.
I've heard that the pharmaceuticals in the water is devastating.
Well, it's not just pharmaceuticals. We have to understand even cocaine in parts of the
Meth,
United
Somebody take a sample of your tap water and test it for ethinyl estradiol and see what's in there.
Kingdom were found amongst fish because of people using record numbers of cocaine and then it being disposed of in your body through your stool, it going through, of course, the natural kind of plants. It never filters through, and of course, it's spreading everywhere. And this is also the same for what's the pill that women take not to get pregnant?
Birth control?
Birth control. Yes.
Yeah.
Birth
Like we were
control.
talking
So there also is a lot of discussion about the larger effects of birth control going into the water because there's no way of filtering it out, and of course, this affecting people who drink the tap
I mean,
water.
the pill
You just
itself.
don't drink
for
the tap
women.
water. So I only drink bottled water. For the most part.
Microplastics.
So we're
There's
in
a
well-
reason I got a glass
well
bottle.
water thing.
I got a
Right.
glass
That's
bottle
true.
here for a reason.
That's true.
Yeah.
We're in a well system here with like an insanely good water treatment system. And so I was wondering about, contaminants in water and how it's affecting people. So obviously there's fluoride, which I remember this like decades ago. They would say, people like Alex Jones and Luke Rutkowski's of the world
it's a chemical waste byproduct.
saying don't ingest fluoride, but it's in your toothpaste, so people ingest it no matter what. It's in your water, so no matter what you do, you ingest it. But there were a lot of people saying it's a conspiracy theory, it's fine. Then I remember I posted something on MySpace, like this is back in the day, where I read a study came out. So this is back in the Aughties or whatever you want to call it, about how fluoride does cause problems and you shouldn't ingest it. Even if like the idea is it helps your teeth, you don't need to drink it. But outside of the fluoride thing, that's a long-standing complaint people have. Some jurisdictions are voting to remove fluoride from their water. You have, you have the other contaminants of birth control pills. So this is something we've read a lot about, and now we have this study, Popular Science, pointing out. Let me read a little bit of this. They say, it's one thing to worry about pollutants in our fresh water supply. It's another to find out that all across the country, male fish swimming in some of that water are becoming intersex. Their male sex organs producing immature female eggs. Although the condition occurs naturally in some species, it shouldn't happen to black bass. But a new study shows that it is, and in numbers far greater than ever suspected. The phenomenon raises serious concerns about the pollution levels in our rivers and could threaten several species. It's saying the 9-year study conducted by the U.S. Geological Survey provides the first nationwide count of intersex fish in the U.S. rivers. Overall, 44% of the largemouth and smallmouth bass dissected turned out to be intersex. But at some sites, 91% of the male largemouth bass were affected. Biologist Joe Ellen Hink's team found intersex males at 34 of 111 sites in 8 out of 9 major river basins, including the Columbia, the Colorado, and the Mississippi. The southeastern U.S. was hit hardest, with intersex bass at every location sampled along the Apalachicola, Savannah, and PD rivers. Now we need to figure out why. The discovery raises some tough questions. Scientists don't know whether the growing number of feminized fish could hinder reproduction enough to disturb the rest of the ecosystem or even drive bass into extinction. Even scarier, the culprit is still unknown. The prime suspect, our toilets. Previous research indicates that wastewater treatment plants flush endocrine disruptive compounds, EDCs, including pharmaceuticals, pesticides, and hormones into the rivers. Even minuscule amounts of EDCs can trigger powerful hormonal shifts that deform male fish's reproductive organs. During a 7-year study, for instance, scientists added parts per trillion amounts, the levels emitted by treatment plants, of synthetic estrogen used in birth control pills to a closed lake. The resulting sex changes collapsed the entire fish population.
Yeah, so what a lot of people don't realize is in these oral contraceptives, they use, like I mentioned, ethinyl estradiol, which is a far more potent estrogen receptor agonist milligram for milligram. So rather than having to use a super high amount of estradiol that I think maybe the reason they didn't even use it is because they couldn't patent bioidentical estradiol. So I think a lot of the pharmaceutical companies actually use an analog ethinyl estradiol so they can, patent it and make money off of it. But it's a synthetic analog. It is not actual bioidentical hormones. And instead, they find an analog that can then bind to the estrogen receptor, agonize it, and then provide that negative feedback to shut down the, not the HPTA because it's, females, but the equivalent. So HPOA, So for them, they get this, what they claim to be adequate estrogen receptor activation via the ethinyl estradiol, but the dosages used are like in the microgram quantities, if I recall correctly. So it's very, very potent relative to actual, like the estradiol women would normally produce. So it's like a hyper concentrated, hyper potent version of estrogen that is not even bioidentical at all. It's like the equivalent of a guy taking an anabolic steroid. It's a derivative of testosterone. It agonizes the same receptor as testosterone. It does similar things to testosterone in a muscle building context, but it is not the same hormone. It is a Frankenstein analog essentially, which is designed to have different kinds of properties, and it is not the same compound. So, in these combined oral contraceptives, they have, a 19-nor derivative, like a nandrolone analog, like levonorgestrel or something of that nature. There's quite a few, but the estrogen component is almost always ethinyl estradiol, which is what they are talking about right here with the synthetic estrogen that's like super potent.
Was Alex Jones right about atrazine turning the friggin' frogs gay?
He wasn't wrong. That's one of the few things.
He wasn't right, actually.
No, he wasn't right. He admits
Yeah,
that too.
right. He wasn't right.
It was altering their.
Well, I was
their
specifically
sex
talking about the
organs.
chemicals.
He was right about that.
In the water not being
No,
filtered.
no,
When he was talking about that, he was absolutely right about
He said
that.
it was hyperbole. When he said gay, he was actually what he meant was that their sex organs were changing from male to female.
So yeah, intersex, like we're seeing
Hermaphroditic.
with this popular science article. I think the issue with what he was talking about was that he cited atrazine, which I believe is a pesticide. Alarming. Look, I'm going to say it again. No disrespect to the Try Guys. I'm not trying to be mean. But I would just say if your testosterone level is at 212 and someone who's 85 is at 367, I think you need to go to a doctor for a full screening of some sort. Something might be wrong.
They're victims. I mean, I feel bad for them. I don't think they did this purposely. I mean, it's just the byproduct of society. I mean, I think we're going to wake up one day in the plot of what's that movie, Children of Men.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be able to have kids anymore. I mean, I think that's where we're heading. I mean, it's like, and no one's going to see it coming because we're so focused on COVID.
Infertility is on the rise in Western countries,
Yeah.
and it's terrifying, the stories that we hear about. And also combined with, of course, the mainstream media push telling you,
There's another way to set yourself apart as a guy, in the competitive environment of the male to female dating landscape. Get your fucking micronutrients in and stay fertile. Apparently, it is now a differentiating competitive advantage in the sexual marketplace.
you don't need children.
Right.
Children are bad.
Cultural and
Why have
biological.
children when you could have a video game? And there was even advertisements, I believe in the United Kingdom, that were saying choose. And it was a condom and a video game and a baby. And it's like, are you kidding me? Like, why is there such a weird push? Why is there such conversations like this happening when in other countries like Poland and Hungary, they're like, hey, we got to deal with this somehow.
What do the Georgia Guidestones say?
There's
Keep
a
the
lot of
population of the world at 500 million.
Did you ever see?
So
that?
I'm not. Hold on. Yeah. I'm not saying that there's a cabal secretly stopping people from having kids, but I do think it's fair to say that there are a lot of environmentalists who flat out say having kids is bad for the planet. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Tim.
Okay, so let me know what you guys think is the reason why testosterone is collapsing to insanely low levels. What is happening to men? All your feedback, much appreciated. Helps the algorithm, obviously, the comments in the comment section. Ultimately, we're just speculating too. I just think that, some of this stuff is more common and easier to address than I think otherwise. I think everyone's trying to blame some exotic, thing. Oh, it's this fucking thing in the water that's poisoning you. Maybe that has some validity, but I think a lot of it is, self-imposed lifestyle decisions. And unfortunately too, some of it is going to be limited financially. Like if you don't have access to high quality food and you're forced to eat like garbage fucking shit from the grocery store, it's kind of unfortunate. But I mean, as long as you have the knowledge for correcting these kind of imbalances and deficiencies, at least you can go about, allocating your funds accordingly to the most important things and learn how to rectify as much as you can. There's a lot of shit that people are just It's like, give me stuff, like super easy things, like get out your house, you know, like how that's free. Get out of your house, go exercise. Like there's a lot of shit, get proper sleep, like all the really obvious stuff that's right there for the taking. Everyone is neglecting. They're taking the fucking sleeping pills. They're getting shit sleep. They're waking up. They're cranking 6 cups of coffee. They're not exercising. They're sitting in front of a computer all day. They're getting fat. They have excessive aromatization. They have negative feedback through a bunch of different things, through their own self-imposed decisions. So let me know what you guys think. Comments help the algorithm. They're much appreciated. If you want to support the channel, you can check out anything I'm associated with in the video description below. My TRT clinic, it's all telemedicine from the comfort of your own home. And obviously we have diagnostics and lab work that you can get to address any imbalances or deficiencies and determine if you actually need anything, and actually look at factors that would, you know, contribute to low T before you just haphazardly jump on, you know, testosterone replacement therapy. That is stuff that we can explore, obviously, through my clinic if you choose to, you know, do diagnostics through us. If you want to support Gorilla Mind, nootropic formulas, Gorilla Mode, pre-workout formulas, I design myself from scratch, and anything else I'm associated with, it's all in the video description below. Thank you guys for watching. Talk to you soon.